Hello all, it's Rodimus Prime coming at you. It is Monday, June 27th, 2022, and hopefully the vibes are good and your mind is sharp. And today, we're looking back at this weekend's first week of qualifiers for Major 4 for the Call of Duty League. I went 5-5. Not exactly the best record you could hope for, but you do what you can, I guess. We're looking back, kind of some takeaways from this first week, kind of what happened, and kind of looking forward through the next couple weeks and going forward what my thoughts are. So go ahead and sit back and relax, and let's examine this first week of qualifiers of the Call of Duty League. So on the first day, just basically kind of looking at it and whatnot, I went 2-1. Subliners did beat Mutineers. Toronto did beat Gorillas in a much closer series than I predicted. Boston Breach came out and they reverse swept Optic. And I guess like my first observation slash takeaway from this is Optic has not seemed like themselves lately. There's also speculation that they may have potentially had COVID, which would also add to the ability of play. It's definitely a lot tougher. But I don't know what Optic needs to do. They definitely don't look like the number 2 team in the game right now. And more specifically, we'll get to this a little bit later, FaZe doesn't look like the number 1 team in the game right now. So we're definitely getting into the final weeks, and these games were really competitive, and it was actually a pretty good weekend of matches. But as I said, Optic's got to figure some things out, because they need to start getting some wins. We're going to Major 4, and then we're getting in Champs. And there's not much time to fix some things, so now's the time. Day 2, London looked like the number 3 team again. Gizmo came back and he played great. He had a .91, which, when you look at the stats, isn't that good. But Trey Zero, man, that guy played out of his mind. He played so well. And he's not going to do that every time, but he still had an amazing day. And I think Gizmo gives them that level of comfort that I talk about all the time. That is such a huge factor for teams that people don't really take into account. And I'm not kidding you when I say this, that comfort is a big part of that. So London did their thing. New York got 2 wins, which were major wins for them. By the way, when we look at the point standings, you'll see why. But those were major wins for New York. Optic lost twice this weekend, which I didn't see happening. And yeah, we get to the final day. LA Thieves apparently has Boston Breach's number real quick on that. They have dominated them in 2 back-to-back series recently. So LA Thieves, when it comes to Boston Breach, Boston, you don't want to play LA. Stay away from them. That is not good for you. We get to the third day, and the first 2 matches are kind of straightforward. Seattle dominated Paris. Seattle looks like the best team in the game right now. They just won a major. They just dominated Paris. Even if it was Paris, Pred dropped a 1.54. I think, if I'm correct, let me check this real quick. I think Dante dropped a 1.4, 1.28. Like, accuracy 1.22, Sib 1.28, Pred a 1.54. Even if it is the Paris Legion, that is still insane stats for them. Seattle looks like the best team in the game. Florida beating Minnesota. Major Maniac got his revenge. That was huge for him. Congratulations. And we get to the final matchup of the week. This was supposed to be a matchup that FaZe dominated. And when you go back and you actually look at the stats of this and like the breakdown, Celium had a 1.44. And they still allowed it to go to 5 maps. If Thieves can do anything in S&D, and if Octane doesn't go 0-12 in S&D, never happened in a single series where a person had 2 donuts, 2 fat old goose eggs, in an S&D series against the number 1 team in the game. If there is a point in time where you need to step up and play your game, it is that. And you cannot go 0-12 in S&D. If Thieves have any sort of help from Octane yesterday when it comes to those S&D rounds, they might have beaten FaZe, because FaZe did not look like the dominant team. Like, there were glimpses. Like, Simp had some moments, Salium did his thing, but at the same time, they don't look like the #1 team in the game. They just played LA Thieves, who, according to all points and standings, is either the, like, 9th or 8th team, and you're having to go to 5 series or 5 matches? It's a little bit scary. It's a little bit scary. When we look at the qualifier standings, they go as follows. Subliners is in the first place. They've got 20 points. Seattle Surge has only played 1 match. So these teams here have all played, well, New York played 2, Seattle, London, and FaZe played 1 each, and Los Angeles Caesars played 1-1, Florida's played 1-1, Toronto 2, Minnesota 2, Boston 2, and Paris is all. So Gorillas and Optic have both already lost 2 of their series. Optic's got a spot pretty much locked up for playoffs. But when you go to like the actual point standings and look at it here, Gorillas cannot be losing any more games, because Rocker needs 1 win to overtake them. Florida needs 1 win to overtake them. New York has a bunch of momentum going into this next week of matches by winning their first 2 series. And you've got the major coming up. If I am Boston, Los Angeles, Thieves, and Gorillas, and I'm in this spot here, like these 4 spots of Toronto to like that point, I'm a little bit nervous. Even London needs to get nervous. And Seattle shouldn't feel comfortable. If you are not above 200 points right now, you need to not be complacent. There is a possibility that your spot could be in jeopardy. And you also need to not think about just making champs, but you're seeding at champs. If you're the 8th seed, what good is it going to do if you're playing FaZe? So you need to be concerned about getting a good seed right now. Like, that's another thing. Like, props to London for not settling and for them trying to get a better seed. Seattle, same with them. These teams are trying to ensure that they have deep runs at champs. So that's the thing for me, is I think some of these teams need to really step up. Minnesota, you got to win all your matches. Florida, no mistakes. New York, you got to win some. I honestly think, and this is just from my perspective, and this is going to be insane if this happens, but take Boston, LA Thieves, and LA Gorillas and bring up Minnesota, Florida, and New York. I think that at the end of the season, that your top 8 teams for champs, FaZe, Optic, Surge, London, Toronto, Minnesota, Florida, and New York. Because I watched Boston play this weekend, and they did not look like a good team. I watched Thieves play this weekend, and they played Boston, and they looked good when they played Boston, but when they played FaZe, if FaZe does anything properly, if they play like the way they do, Thieves look terrible. So I'm not really confident in Thieves. And Gorillas, well, I don't know what the heck they need to do to figure out their situation, but they're on a down tick, and it is not good. They have not won a match since Major 2. It has been that long that they have won a series, since Major 2. So my opinion, looking back at this, it's going to be FaZe, Optic, Seattle, London, Toronto, Minnesota, Florida, and New York. That is going to be my 8 going into champs. I think New York is going to get in. I think that they are a hot team right now. I think they're probably going to take it. But yeah, that's kind of my takeaways from this first weekend here. We'll do predictions later on this week to kind of give you my thoughts on what's going to happen in the second week qualifiers. But this was a good first weekend of matches. I think we're going to have some competitive matches coming forward, and I think that we're going to be very lucky in terms of Call of Duty. But all right, that's going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. As always, the opinions stated in this video are my own, so you don't got to agree with them, but I appreciate you sitting through the entirety of the video. Before you go, if you could do me just one more small favor, if you could go ahead and please like the video and subscribe, I would really, really appreciate that. And as always, I'll see you all tomorrow.